Socialism is about control, about controlling people and every aspect of their lives. And the passion you see in the streets of Miami tonight and in other parts of Florida and the country is people that suffered under that evil, saw their families divided, their lives destroyed, their kids have to go overseas. People never saw their parents before they died because of evil. That's what Marxism is.
Republican Senator Marco Rubio weighing in on the protests in Cuba tonight on Hannity. Thousands of protesters there and in Miami tonight are standing up to the government amid an economic crisis that is driving up prices and causing food shortages. The demonstration is one of the largest standing up to the regime in Havana. Let's bring in some of our experts on all things political to discuss that and more. Kevin Walling, Democratic strategist and former Biden campaign surrogate. Horace Cooper, Project 21 co-chair and author of How Trump is Making Black America Great Again, and Len Khodorkovsky, former Trump State Department official. Gentlemen, welcome.
Thank you.
Hey, Mike, good to be with you.
Here is President Biden from today.
Cuban people demanding their freedom from an authoritarian regime. And I don't think we've seen anything like this protest in a long, long time, if quite frankly ever. The United States stands firmly with the people of Cuba as they assert their universal rights.
Len, is that a good start?
Well, it's accurate. Communism is evil, as Marco Rubio said. Personally, you know, I came from a communist country myself, from the Soviet Union, and communism literally sucks the life out of people. It's responsible for hundreds of millions of victims around the world. It has failed everywhere it's been tried. And this protest that you're seeing in Cuba is not a one-off. It's been building for 60 years. And what you're seeing is frustrations of people from a system that suppressed them and the previous generation for decades and decades. And you're seeing the result of that. And frankly, the chants that you're hearing from people of liberty, liberty, flies in the face of American politicians like Bernie Sanders and AOC, who try and gloss over communism and try and paint it as a system worthy of implementation on any group of people. And that's just wrong.
Let's get the read from Secretary of State Blinken.
Tired of the mismanagement of the Cuban economy, tired of the lack of adequate food, and of course an adequate response to the COVID pandemic. That is what we are hearing and seeing in Cuba.
Horace, he doesn't mention communism. Unforced error?
Well, absolutely. This is very, very telling. The problem, as I see it, is we just celebrated the 4th of July and the Declaration of Independence. That declaration speaks of universal truths. My disdain, even hostility toward Marxism has nothing to do with the race of the practitioners and has everything to do with the evil that that philosophy manifests. And yet, on too many college campuses, in so many even boardrooms in America, and definitely among our progressive elites, there is a willingness to tolerate the teachings of this very, very evil idea that has killed so many people. Our Secretary of State should be championing those people in the streets and saying we will back them in every way we can.
Kevin, your assessment of the situation in Cuba?
Yeah, to Horace's point, that's exactly what we saw the president in terms of the official White House statement and remarks in the Roosevelt Room today. He made it very clear that we stand, the American people and his government stand with those protesters in the streets of Havana and across the country of Cuba. That is a clarion call for freedom. And I think you're going to see in the days and weeks to come, as the administration thinks through its response. Of course, it's a new Cuban regime, of course, in taking over. We're seeing this protest, as the president said, something that we have not seen in likely 6 decades of interactions with the people of Cuba in that country, and that's something to be encouraging of these people on the ground.
2 Texas Democrats taking off so the legislature would not have a quorum. Len, what's your take?
This is just absurd. You know, I think the Democratic Party legislators just need to grow up. Where the Democratic Party is fond of telling us that elections have consequences. Well, elections in Texas have consequences too. And Texans have elected a Republican majority in Texas. And so what you do is you don't cry and run to Washington in a private jet. You work with your colleagues to work through difficult issues.
Okay.
And frankly, Republicans in Texas have been approaching Democrats in good faith and have accepted some of their proposals. So all of this is actually a big political stunt and political theater.
Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton saying, quote, this immature behavior by House Democrats is not only childish, it is a disgrace to democracy. Horace, no surprise, Republican leaders in Texas are not amused.
Well, look, I'm not clear on what can be learned by running to Washington, D.C. What I do understand is that if you're unhappy with what is occurring, you should make the steps or take the steps necessary to control the chamber so your priorities can take place. Now, our organization, Project 21, actually, if you go to our website, you'll see the reports that we've done on voting rights that show that Black Americans are the likeliest victims of voter fraud. Absolutely, Texas is where America is and should be allowed to go forward with voter integrity measures.
Kevin, state legislators in Texas do not do that full time. Presumably they have other full-time jobs to get back to. How does this end?
Yeah, Mike, it's a good question. Certainly they're sacrificing their livelihoods and their time to come here to Washington to extend through August to hopefully shut down this special session. I'll note, and I saw Chris Wallace's great interview with the governor this past Sunday where he really pressed the governor to talk about fraud in the state. We saw over 10 million ballots cast in the state of Texas in 2020 and just 16 counts of fraud investigated by the Attorney General Ken Paxton that you mentioned, Mike. So this is a fake problem in search of a solution here that does not exist with what these Republicans are pushing for in Austin.
Gentlemen, we're up against the clock. Thanks so much for your time.
Thank you.
Good to be with you, Mike.
You.
Public employee unions sue the state of Connecticut to block their employees' return to their offices, arguing they're more productive at home. Night court convenes next.